these are the people that should pay more for this.
Right. Well said, gentlemen. Let's quickly move on to our next issue, where after the inauguration of the Tripartite Committee for a new national minimum wage, workers are on the verge for a tangible outcome. As negotiations intensify, organized private sector in Ekiti, Sokoto and other states have faulted the demand for 1 million naira minimum wage by the Nigeria Labour Congress, stating that it is not realistic. Also, the president of NLC, Joe Ajero, said organized labor may insist on the 1 million naira if the value of naira continues to drop. And reacting to the proposal, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Idris Mohammed, said the federal government will make a reasonable decision in line with national interest and other factors. BKO is still talking about this issue. The depreciation of the naira is what is justifying the NLC to demand for 1 million naira. But what do you make of this? Do you think perhaps this is realistic, even though that the currency is weakened to a certain extent? And what do you think they could use to justify, any increment, so to speak, for the new minimum wage?
No, it's a natural thing that minimum wage will go up, and it has to go up significantly. But to be talking about 1 million is to be ridiculous.
Completely. Completely.
He knows in his heart, Ajero knows in his heart that nobody will pay him 1 million.
He's laughing.
Nobody will pay him 1 million. It's turning this to a joke. And we don't need that. These are serious times. The negotiation for a new minimum wage shouldn't take time. Everyone knows that there's a need for a new minimum wage, a living wage for workers.
Right.
But don't punch above your weight category. If you are a flyweight and you now say, it is that man who is a heavyweight that I want to fight, you know that you are sending an invitation to the man upstairs to invite you. That is the thing. You cannot fight above your weight category. It makes no sense.
Right.
That's planning your own suicide, planning suicide. So Ajero and his people, yes, they must negotiate. They must negotiate aggressively, because the Nigerian worker deserves the best. Who says it is a Nigerian worker who should not earn a living wage? It's a living wage meant for senators alone and politicians. Who says it's politicians alone who should ride in good cars? Some of them never do well, but they ride some of the best cars around. Who says that is exclusively for politicians? I do not agree that the Nigerian worker should not earn a living wage. Before Ajero begins to talk about 1 billion, the last minimum wage, more than 20 states could not pay. 30,000, no. More than 20 states could not pay 30,000 naira. And Ajero wants
1 million.
1 million. We play too much in this country. No, those people will just be looking at it, okay, they play. Which is our street lingo now in Nigeria. They play. They look at him, Ajero, they play. 1 million is too much now. I agree that this time around, they must get a good bargain from the government. And states now, some states are earning 3 times what they used to earn. They have no excuse. Any of those states that does not want to pay minimum wage now, Labour has to get up and make governance difficult for that kind of governor. Strikes, civil disobedience, they must pay. Because we know what they pay themselves. I mean, this I have to be. I may not always agree with Labour and its tactics, but this is the truth. You must pay the worker
a living wage.
A living wage.
Right.
Mr. President talked about a living wage shortly after he was inaugurated. His first meeting with governors, he told them, he said, this is the time for us to talk about a minimum wage. At that time, the Naira had not even taken this level of beating. But the president talked about it. So the more the naira slides, the more
the demand.
Labor will ask for something bigger. I think they were talking about 200,000 before.
Yes.
I had the
200,000.
Yes.
and what was that one with the bushy hair?
The
The
TVC.
TUC man. He was talking about 200,000 at that time. We felt 200,000 was kind of
Unrealistic.
at that time. The naira
Had not slid to this level.
Yes. Every time the naira slides, disposable income of the worker and the rest of us, labor constitutes just around 5 to 6% of the population. You know? So you can't also spend nearly all what we've got for just 6% of us. The rest of us won't agree. Because states will now be left with a little or nothing, and you must have enough to spend on infrastructure, to spend on even the environment, refuse evacuation, and the rest. And all those remedial actions that must be taken to address climate change-induced problems here and there. So we have to put on our thinking cap and arrive at a minimum wage that will be acceptable
for all parties.
To everyone, because we can't bankrupt our country because we want to pay minimum wage to just about 5% of the population. Well, don't forget, Ajero must realize that when you talk about minimum wage, you are not talking about government workers alone.
No.
It seems to talk like, oh, this whole thing is just government workers. Even in the private sector, the minimum wage is the law. So it must take root. They must pay too. So you must bear them in mind. If you think government has so much money now because subsidy has been removed, the states are earning more, federal too is earning more, local government are earning more. What about the people in the private sector? A lot of them are losing their businesses.
Yeah.
A lot of the businesses are dying. So you must bear all of these issues in mind and negotiate sensibly.
Absolutely.
And arrive at something that will be acceptable to everyone.
Let's just quickly go on a very quick break. We're still on to Journalist Hangout. We'll have more discussions on this very issue when we return. Just stay with us.